Hello, my name's Rob and welcome to Swift Slots. Now, this video is a little bit happier than my last video that I did on the Bambu A1 because, as you can see, I no longer have a melted machine. I have a brand new box delivered directly from Bambu containing a brand new Bambu A1. So my last video got quite a lot of attention. There are a lot of comments in there, and I did promise at the end of the last video that I would summarize when I got to this point, and the comments below kind of necessitated absolutely having to do a follow-up video as well. So a lot of comments in there that I had to address in the comments. Some of them were quite scathing of my opinions, and some of them were just helpful, and to those guys that were helpful, thank you very much. And some of them were just general inquiries, and there was a lot of comments in there that said, oh, the machines don't melt, I've never heard of it. And then there's a lot of guys said, well, actually mine's just melted, or I've done some research and I've suddenly realized that maybe they do melt. So when you watch videos like this, try not to look at things as if to say, well, it's never happened to me, so therefore it doesn't happen. Try and look at it from an open perspective and say, well, it's happened to this guy. Maybe it could happen to me, or maybe it does happen. Be a little bit more open-minded when people say that these things can happen, because as a lot of the guys in the last video comments found out, yeah, it is a thing, unfortunately. So I did promise a follow-up video, and this is it. Now, I do have my bits of paper here because there's a lot of points on here that I want to try and get right. So I'm going to refer to my points. I'm going to try and do this on the fly, a little bit sort of and ummy. But basically, so the story goes, on the 5th month, my Bambu A1 melted. My family phoned me up when I was at a show and they said, your machine stopped mid-print, what do I do? And I said, well, you can't really sort of leave it there and you can't fix it. So just turn it off. I'll scrap the print and I'll sort it out when I get back home. So I got back home on the Sunday evening and I found that the side of my machine was all melted. So I did a quick bit of research, found out that there was a big problem with it. And then I contacted Bambu on the Monday morning of that same week. So that would have been the 11th of the 5th, 2026. So the first point of call on their Bambu website is you talk to the AI chatbot type thing, and that's sort of the front door to their website, which is absolutely fine. So I spoke to the AI for a few rounds of emails back and forth, or contacts, and then eventually the AI said, no, you need this to be sorted by a human, and I was put onto a human with a ticket. And that ticketing process took about 4 days. So the way that Bambu work is they ask you one simple question and then you give them the answer. And then they ask you another simple question and then you give them the answer. They don't bombard you with lots of difficult questions. They just ask one at a time. Now, Bambu take 24 hours to get back to you between each email. So this took the course of 4 to 5 days, but it wasn't because Bambu were being difficult. It was purely because it takes 24 hours for them to get round to asking you the next question. Perfectly reasonable questions, nothing wrong with that at all. They have to ask a series of questions. You give them specific answers, and at the end of it, they'll say, yes, we need to sort you out, or be on your way, nothing to see here. So I went through that process over 4 days, question, answer, 24 hour, question, answer, 24 hour. And by the time we got to the Friday, they said, yep, we need to sort you out. We need to give you either a new board to go in your machine or a complete new machine. Which is it to be? Bearing in mind, if you take a board, then it's going to take a couple of days. If you take a whole machine, it's going to take an awful lot longer. Well, I actually wanted a whole machine because they didn't mention anything about replacing the casing, and I might want to sell the machine later on, so I didn't want it all the melted case. Plus it stank, plus it was covered in this sort of acidy residue that was all over it. It's sort of your hands, make your hands feel all weird, and if you touched your mouth with your hands, you could taste this weirdness, and it was just a mess. I didn't really want it. So I said I want a new machine, and I was prepared to put up with the long wait. So then they gave me a postage label to send it back to Bambu. Absolutely great so far, no problems at all. So I got it all packaged up because they send you an email about how to pack it up, but I'd kept all the original packaging, so none of that was a problem. Put it all back in the original packing, put the label on the box, and then I was going to take it up to the post office on the Monday. Well, I got an email on the Monday morning saying your parcel will be collected, which is cool because this is a heavy old box. I only live around the corner from the post office, but it's a big old cumbersome box to carry. So I was very pleased that they're going to pick it up from my house. Now, here's the first problem. Obviously, the machine was dead, it's worthless, and Bambu don't really give it much. They just need to see it. I understand that. But the courier service they used is a courier service in the UK called Every. Now, Every used to be called Hermes, and Hermes was an absolutely awful company. They were just all the usual things you hear about, parcels being flung over the fence and stolen and smashed up, and it's all true. And they, instead of investing money into upgrading Hermes and making Hermes into a really good courier service, they decided to put all that money into just rebranding it, and they rebranded it into Every. And Every are just as bad as Hermes ever were. It's the same company, and they take forever to deliver anything. So I was a little bit disappointed when I saw that the actual postage label was actually for an Every service. Now, the machine was going back to Bambu in Birmingham in the UK. Now, for those of you outside of the United Kingdom, the Birmingham is a huge city right in the middle of England. I think they call it our second city as opposed to London. And I live in the south of Wales. I drive to Birmingham regularly. And it takes me about 2 hours to drive to Birmingham because I do it often. So it's a 4-hour trip there and back. It's no big deal. It's just up the motorway. It's easy to get to from where I live. Now, this is the thing. Because they didn't want to spend an awful lot of money on a dead machine, quite rightly so, they chose the worst possible service to send it back. So it took a week and a half to get this box 2 hours up the road to Birmingham from my house. Now, obviously, I'm a customer. I've bought a Bambu machine. It's failed catastrophically with a problem that they knew about all along. And then they choose to collect my machine and send it back to them on the worst possible service. Now, I could be in a print farm. I could have an awful lot of things at stake on my printer. As it turns out, I did have some things in stake because I use it for my business. I did have work I had to do. I had to do a lot of things. I was very dependent on the machine. I couldn't be without a machine, but they were still going to make me wait a week and a half just because of the courier they chose, rather than give me priority service and give me a decent courier. So that took a week and a half of just burnt time. Now, when the machine was collected from my home, well, that all went perfectly well. Bambu did not contact me again until yesterday. So it was basically 5.5 weeks from my machine melting and then me contacting them within a few hours to actually having a new machine back. 5.5 weeks. Is that good? I'm not entirely sure. I'll leave it to you to judge. Now, it would have been nicer if I'd have had a replacement machine back a little bit quicker than 5 weeks. I understand they're a big and busy company, but 5.5 weeks is a very long time to be without a printer if you're relying on it. Now, there's the next thing. So we've dealt with the sort of process and everything else, and I'm reasonably happy with the process of talking to them on the website, them collecting the machine. Less happy about waiting, what was it, about 4 weeks or 4 and a bit weeks to get the machine sent back, but yeah, it is what it is, I suppose. But here's the thing. In the comments, so we'll come to the comments now. There's a lot of people saying, why on earth did you buy another Bambu? They're a horrendous company. You're an idiot. And yes, I am indeed an idiot. But the reason why I bought another Bambu A1 is because I am not only an idiot, I am also brand new to 3D printing. I've only been doing it for 6 months. I'm really computer illiterate. I don't understand computers at all. I've managed to understand how to use the Bambu Studio, and I've managed to use my Bambu A1. And quite frankly, I was worried about learning a new process. Now, I have heard of Orca. I do know of Orca. It's something I am going to have to address at some point very soon. So people say, oh, you should just learn Orca. I will. But when my machine melted, I had things I had to do that week, and subsequently I've had to do things as well. And I was in a pinch. I needed to get another machine up and running ASAP because I had to get work out for the end of that week. I didn't have time to learn another slicer. I was a bit worried about learning another slicer, and the same reason with the printer itself. I couldn't afford a more expensive printer. Quite frankly, these are very cheap anyway. But also, I didn't have the time to learn a new machine, well, being it setting the machine up or learning its nuances or anything. So I just didn't have time. I needed to get a printer back in my workshop printing for work that I had to do on a deadline. So that answers the question as to why I bought another Bambu A1. Now, in the comments, there was another thing that came up regularly, and that is 3D Musketeers. Now, I contacted the 3D Musketeers on the Monday after my Bambu melted, and because obviously I went on the internet and I looked at the videos and I found their videos on this exact topic. So I contacted them straight away, because they invite you to within the video. So I contacted them and they got back to me pretty quickly, to be fair. They contacted me within a couple of days, so they would have been back about Wednesday, while I was sort of in the middle of this returns system with Bambu. And I explained my situation to them, and they said they were very sympathetic about my cause, and if there's anything they could do, they would help me if I wanted to. And if I wanted to send back the board to them, they would receive it, and then they could put the board in with all the other boards that they've got to do something with. I'm not entirely sure. At no point did 3D Musketeers ever offer me any money. They didn't offer to buy the board back, and they didn't offer to buy the entire machine back. They never offered that to me at all, and I was unaware that that was even a thing. And to this day, I haven't even seen that video where they actually offer sending the things back and paying you for them. So I'm just going on what people have told me in the comments. But I was never offered any money whatsoever, only help if I needed it further down the line, or I could just send my board to them. Now, I don't quite know what they're going to do with these boards when they're sent back, or the whole machines that they've paid an awful lot of money for. And in my case, they would have had to shipped it halfway around the world, because I'm in South Wales in the United Kingdom and 3D Musketeers are in America. So that's a hell of a long way to post this very heavy box over the dead printer on their expense, giving me full price for this machine. I'm not sure that's right, but you know, they certainly didn't offer that to me. So towards the end of all this debacle about waiting for this machine to come back, I kept on reading in the comments that 3D Musketeers would give me my money back, or whatever. And I thought, this is very strange, but I read it so often that I actually contacted 3D Musketeers again. And I said to them, here is the video that I made. Please feel free to read the comments. I keep being told that you're going to offer me all my money back for this machine. And guess what? Nothing. They literally didn't answer that email. So I think it's fair to say that 3D Musketeers do not offer you all your money back. They do not offer to pay the shipping of any part of it at all. In fact, if you ask them if this is true, you get absolutely nothing back. So I hope that puts pay to why I didn't send my machine back to 3D Musketeers, because they didn't offer it. So while on the topic of 3D Musketeers buying back all these machines to take Bambu, well, to do something with them, let's say that, I'm not entirely sure what they can actually do, because I can assure you the new machine that I bought literally a couple of days after my original one melted so I could get back up on track had a different board in it. That's something I haven't actually addressed, have I? So the moment, if you haven't watched my original video, I bought a brand new Bambu A1 the moment that my one melted. So that would have been Monday. I bought a brand new one and I was up and running again by Wednesday and printing along. So I had a printer back in my cabinet, all working and done. So before I actually started using that machine, I obviously took the back off straight away to see what was going on, to see if the new machine that was 6 months younger than the one I'd bought previously was any different from my original one. And guess what? It is. It's absolutely different. So first of all, when you peel off the back, you don't get all the glue on the vents that are on the side of the metal mesh. So that's gone. And also the thermistor that's on the board that burnt up in the first place, that's gone. There's actually a picture just there of what the board looks like now. They've bridged where the terminals were on a thermistor with just a straight bar. I don't know what's happened to the thermistor. I don't know where it's gone. I don't know anything about it. All I can tell you is that Bambu have addressed this issue and they have moved. Whether they fixed the problem, I couldn't tell you, but they have moved that thermistor that was causing the problem. So what 3D Musketeers are going to do, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't heard of any catastrophic things happening to these machines when they melt. I've only heard that they've melted occasionally. And I've also heard that 3D Musketeers are going to do something about that whole thing. Well, I'm not sure what they can do, because Bambu have actually fixed the problem. Whether they fixed the actual melting issue, it might melt somewhere else, I don't know. But they've changed where the thermistor is. And as far as I'm concerned, they've addressed the problem. So what exactly they're going to do about it, I don't really know, because Bambu have appeared to at least fix the problem, and they have on this machine and they have on my old machine that's new. You know what I mean? I've got two machines now, this brand spanking new one with a new board in it, and my new older one that's been changed as well. So as far as I'm concerned, I think Bambu have actually addressed this problem entirely. So one of the other really common comments I read in the comments below in my original video was how I shouldn't be playing with Bambu because of their horrendous politics. Well, to be honest, it's difficult for me. I'm not in any way knowledgeable on 3D printing. So all this debacle about their politics and the way that they're conducting themselves, it goes over my head a great deal because I don't understand I understand the general idea of that they're taking things that were in open source and they're kind of locking them down, and that's unfair and everybody's really unhappy with it. I get it, but I am just a consumer of a machine that'll do a job. I mean, I have a political opinion on many things, but on this particular subject, I'm not really sure that I do all that much. Now, I personally like Macs because I can't be trusted with an ordinary Windows machine. So there's a lot of people that hate on Macs as well. So you can either hate on a Mac or you can hate on a Windows machine. Either way, you've got to use one. So for me to pick a side in 3D printing as a complete beginner, not knowing the history about it particularly, not being terribly invested in the 3D printing world, it's a little bit difficult for me to choose what printer I buy based on politics. All I needed was a printer that worked. I understand that there are some issues, some ethical issues that some people have got with Bambu. I get it. That's for you personally to deal with in your own way. Me personally, I went with the Apple of 3D printers, as they're often called, a complete enclosed ecosystem where I can learn and I can do everything within that bubble, and it's all very easy. Much the same as the reason why I use Macs, because all this stuff that goes with the Windows stuff is all very complicated, it's all very convoluted, and I don't understand computers, so I go with the Mac. And for the very same reason, I went with the Bambu, because it's all enclosed, and what goes on politically on the outside of that bubble, I don't really want to get involved with it. But going forwards, am I going to act on that? Yes, I actually am. Not because I'm unhappy with Bambu particularly. I've got to go on what I've had experience of, and what I've had experience of is a machine that was sold to me when they knew that there was a problem with it, because they'd already had a statement that they gave to me at the end of my ticketing process. And that's another thing. At the end of the ticketing process, I actually said to Bambu that I've produced this, not this video, but the one before. I showed them the video. I came up clean with them. I said, look, I've got a small YouTube channel and I've made a video. Here is the video. What do you think? Just so that you know. And they came back to me and they said, so what? I mean, we're sorting you out. What more do you want? Fair enough. I mean, they're sorting me out. They have sorted me out. What more did I want? Nothing more I can ask for, is there? So they have actually sorted me out that way. But what I can comment on is the fact that I was sold a machine that melted in the first place, that they knew about, and it had the old board in it. And obviously 3 days after I started the ticket, I bought my other machine and that had a different board in it. So they were still selling new machines with faulty goods up until fairly recently. Now that's an issue for me, to be honest with you. And also the time it took for them to get this machine back to me. They didn't ask me, was I at a deadline or did I have any sort of urgent things that I had to get done with the machine? They just said, well, you'll be without a printer effectively. So, you know, I mean, it's up to them. I mean, they sorted it out. But I, as a customer, I can choose what printer I buy based on my experience. My experience is, shouldn't really have bought a printer that's prone to melting in the first place. And secondly, when it did melt and I had to sort it out, they took an age to get it back to me. They didn't take very long to sort it out, to be fair, talking to me, to be fair, over the course of a week. The questions they were asking were fair. I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have is the fact that they used Hermes or Every to send it back to a place that was only 2 hours from my house, and that took a week and a half. And then they took another 2.5 to 3 weeks just to get another one back to me. They did return it with a really good courier. I got it back really quickly within 24 hours. That was great because obviously this is a more valuable thing. They wanted to entrust it to a decent courier. That I don't have a problem with. But the whole process, over 5 weeks. that isn't great, and buying one that melted in the first place, that wasn't great either. So those would be my reasons for moving to a different brand. Now, I did say at the end of the other video that I was contemplating a different brand, and could you guys suggest what I go for? Now, this was a bit of a can of worms. Now, I did contact Snapmaker, and I was interested in their U1. I thought that might be really good. However, as a model maker of very small models, I do use the 0.2 nozzle regularly. I swap it out a lot of times when I'm doing my work. I have a legitimate use for using a 0.2 nozzle. Now, looking at the Snapmaker machine, which I was really interested in, it's a very convoluted way to change the nozzle. And because it's a multi-head machine, there's 4 nozzles, not just the one. So yeah, it's true, I don't do a lot of color printing at 0.2, but I do want to change the nozzle, and it's all just a bit of a faff. I watched a lot of videos on that machine. I even contacted Snapmaker and I said, you know, I have a small YouTube channel. I'm willing to make some videos for you using the machine if you want to help me out a little bit with the printer. And they came back and they offered me 10% off the machine. Well, 10% to me isn't really enough for me to put all my eggs in one basket in the new machine. It's a couple of £100. Well, not even that actually. It's £100, £80 in fact. It's £80. So it's not enough to swing me to a U1. And then I have to make videos as well to justify the discount. And nah, I'm moving on. So another printer that you guys recommended me was Prusa. Now, Prusa is very interesting. I did do a lot of research in Prusa. I understand that there is a bit of a fan base with Prusa, a little bit like my example with Apple. There's a bit of a fan base. Prusa has its own fan base. I understand that. Now, I also understand that they're a little bit behind the times with their what's the word, technology, I suppose. I'm not saying that they're backwards. I'm just saying that they're not quite as upfront as other brands are at this particular time, which is a good thing. Given the chance, I would drive an older car because I don't want all the electronics that's in it that spy on you and messes you around. I don't want all this nonsense sensors everywhere. And that would be going the same for Prusa. I actually don't mind a slightly behind the times machine because it's proven technology. I also don't have a problem with Prusa making parts for Prusa machines on their Prusa machines over in the Prusa factory, all 3D printed parts. As long as they work, and they do, I'm happy with that. So I am actually leaning towards Prusa. Not because I don't want to go with Elegoo or don't want to go with any other brand. It's because I think that Prusa have just held back a little bit and allowed their machine to mature. And they just come to the market slightly behind, but with a much more reliable machine that's been proven over time. And that I actually think is worth it. Now, they do appear to be a multitude times more expensive than any other brand. I can't quite know which number it is. It's difficult to know with the different machines and the different types of things that they got. It's difficult to know just how much more expensive they are. I think there's something like 3 or 4 times more expensive. But that isn't a problem if you're going to get a quality machine. Even though it's slightly behind in its technology, that is great. Also, they use Orca Slicer, I believe, so I'd have to come back to that. As I said, I'd have to come back to Orca and learn that one as well. But that could be something I could do in my own time. So I've looked at other alternatives. I've taken you guys' opinions on board. I've looked at all the different ranges of machines. I can't think of them off the top of my head for the moment, but there are a number of them. I've watched an awful lot of YouTube videos on them, and I understand that some of those videos are paid for. I can look between the lines and see the BS that's sometimes put on these reviews. I can look beyond that. So I think possibly I might end up being a Prusa fanboy. Now, what am I going to do with the 2 machines that I've now got? Obviously, I've got my machine now that's a month old, that's been doing really good work up to now. Now I've got this brand spanking new machine as well, which has never been plugged in. So I honestly don't know what I'm going to do with these 2 machines. I mean, can I sell this one? I probably can. I mean, it's brand spanking new. But the thing is, am I going to get grief if someone buys it from me? If any of you local guys want to buy it from me, then, you know, and you know the situation with it, then it's here. I mean, I'll do you a reasonable deal on it and take it away. So on a Black Friday, I think in 2026, when Black Friday comes along, in what, November time, somewhere around there. I think I might see what the Prusa Core 1 looks like price wise in the UK, and I might just go for a Prusa Core 1 enclosed machine, because it takes 0.2 nozzles, or 0.25 in fact, on the Prusa machine. They're very easy to swap out. It's a proven machine, it's got proven history. Apparently it's got a fantastic service. If you get a problem, you can ring them up or contact them and they come straight back to you like that, no problem. That's all great. Apparently they're a really good company to deal with, and that's fine. I know they cost a lot of money. I know they're not the most technologically advanced perhaps, but I think I will go with that. So that's basically how I'm going to conclude this video. Am I happy with Bambu's service? For the most part, I think I probably am. Could they have done more for me? Not really. I mean, they could have picked it up quicker. But other than that, they've done me a decent job. The machine I bought the other month is fixed. This machine is fixed, so Bambu can't really do much more than that. And I think come Black Friday, I'm going to see what the land looks like with the Prusa Core 1 and probably jump ship at the end of the year, sell my Bambu machines, or I don't quite know, something about that anyway, and then I'm going to move to a Prusa and become a Prusa fanboy. Not really, but you know, I think that's probably the best option and safest option for me. I'm not a fan of companies having these big problems that this A1 has got or had, and then just not really doing much about it. There should really have been a proper recall on the original one that I bought back in the December or November 2025. That obviously never happened, and it was left to me to find out that the machine just melted itself apart. I don't think that's a good look. Politics aside, that for me is not great, and then 5 weeks to have it replaced again. They never asked me if I, wasn't on a deadline. They just said, well, it's going to take some time, which is fair enough, I suppose. But, those are the things that I would consider to be important to me about choosing a different machine. So I think I'm going to become a Prusa owner at the end of the year, depending on what the Black Friday deals look like. So that's basically my long-winded summary of how this whole thing has turned out. So feel free, if I've missed anything out or you think I've been an idiot on something or another, let me know in the comments. As you know from my last video, I did answer every single comment that I saw. I had about 100 comments or more, I'm not entirely sure. I did answer every single one. On this channel, I do answer all my comments because I'm small enough to be able to do that. So any constructive criticism, leave it down the comments, or any other suggestions, leave it down the comments. Try and keep it civil. I'm not an idiot, to be honest with you. I do look at these things with a bit of an open view, so I don't really want to sort of have any huge axe to grind with Bambu particularly, but I need to move forward in a constructive way. But everything that I do thoughtfully, and I try and move forward at a nice clean straight line, and try and keep it thoughtful and considerate and take into consideration what I want to do. I try and move forward. I don't make these decisions rashly. I do think it through a bit. So if I've made any mistakes in whatever I've said today now, it's all in good faith, and I'm happy to be corrected. So please feel free, correct me in the comments if you've got anything to say. So there we are. That's my conclusion of my Bambu A1 and my little journey of it. Be sticking with it to the end of the year, and then probably move to a Prusa. So I hope that you've not enjoyed this content, but I hope that you've seen my point of view. And if you have, and you like what I do on this channel, maybe you'll subscribe. Maybe you could hit the little bell as well. That would be pretty cool. So until the next time, thank you very much.